It's a glorified treasure hunt, basically, where you use a GPS to find little boxes that other people hide.
I use multi-billion-dollar government satellites to look for Tupperware hidden in the woods, and I think that pretty much sums it up in a nutshell. So.
You're given the latitude and longitude coordinates, and so you go to find it that way.
It's not that difficult actually for anybody to pick up a GPS at any, Megalomart store type thing and get out there and do it.
It's fun. It's a great time. I go to places I've never seen before, meet people never met before. I love it.
They're looking for something different to do. I was looking to buy a new GPS. This thing showed up. I said, this is cool.
It's a really large growing hobby with a huge fan base worldwide. I think that there's caches in over 200 in some odd countries all over the world. I know the soldiers in Iraq geocache.
They're right, we are all geeks.
All you do is you go to the geocaching webpage, and then what I do is I'll either print it out or I'll load it into my GPS. The easy ones I try to kind of stay away from unless I'm bored and need something to do. I like the more challenging ones.
Once you get in the area, you have to kind of think like the hider and figure out where it's been hidden.
There's several different skill sets that you have to possess to be a successful geocacher.
I show 8 foot. Let me get back out of here. We'll see which way that can go. Very good. Nice one. Nice one.
Oh, I like that.
Good find. Yeah, let's get him.
His real name's Phil. The caching name is Perseid88. And yes, I found other stuff. He's one of those caches where you need to know that it's him hiding it, or you'll hardly ever find it. Because he'll do caches just like that. He'll hollow things out, things that look like they belong. And yes, they're very hard to find if you don't know that it's his.
There's one that's an unusual one that you have to fill the outer cache container with water so that the container itself floats to the top so you can pull it out and get it to sign the log.
Hey, I did a cache of yours and it was terrible. It kicked my butt. I couldn't find it. I had to go back 3 times to get it. How did you do that?
See what record the hider has. Look at the logs where people have found the cache.
You gotta need a lot more. Oh.
You're going to take a look at the straightest route and find the easiest route as you go. You definitely cannot always go straight. There can be things like fences, streams, whatever. You're going to zigzag around.
You have to do your homework, so you can actually do it all before you even leave your house.
You find a location that you think would be a good place for a cache and where it's sort of an identifiable spot. And then you mark the coordinates there with your GPS.
Ta-da! Once you find the cache, you need to log the logbook, and if you have any items you want to trade, you can take an item out of the cache that you like and you can trade it with something that you have.
Some people just take items. And so after a while, after a couple months of being out and being hit about a dozen times, a lot of caches get more or less depleted of anything worth trading.
Once you come back home, you can write a log online and share your experience to the person who placed the cache, which is always a nice thing to do.
You have become addicted.
I can see where it can get to be habit forming.
If you have any OCD tendencies, you might want to stay away just for your own safety's sake.
It's very addictive, very addictive.
Yeah, well, I'm the type of person that doesn't suck a lollipop or an ice cream cone. I just bite right into it. Well, that's geocaching for me. Anything that I do, that's the way I'm going to do it.
She's the world's #1 cacher.
See, I'm in a process of reevaluation and change right now because that's all I did. That's all I have done. I started to miss my kids. They're sick of geocaching and they have other interests. It's just too selfish, you know what I mean?
She found a cache before anybody else, and she jumps up and screams with glee when she found the cache, like she's found her first cache, and she's probably found about 10,000 caches at that point.
I own a business, and my husband's running the business, so I can do this, yeah.
She's always on the move, caching, talking, buzzing around.
I don't want it to be the most important thing in my life, because that's not right. I was famous for always telling different people, it's only a game, it's only a game. Okay, if you believe it's only a game, prove it.
And I've heard Lynn saying that after hitting 15K, she was going to slow down a bit.
I want to get back to doing it like it was before. I love all the caches, but, I don't want to cache with people just because I enjoy their company. It doesn't have to be about, oh, I'm driving this far, I'm putting out this much money, this much time, I have to get X number of caches for this expenditure. That's ridiculous.
You know, people do it for different reasons. Some people do it for the numbers, you know, to see how many they can find.
I never thought numbers were supposed to be anything in the first place.
Everybody in their quest to get all the smileys go for quantity versus quality. They're going to beat the bush down, and that's not good. That hurts the sport.
I'm now at a total of about 5K finds.
Something over 4,500 right now.
37, 3,800, something like that.
3,400 some right now.
Over 4,000.
About 1,870, I think.
Just around 1,000 finds.
People make fun of me because I have less than 300 finds.
You get a little smiley, bingo. That's it.
Is that something you take out of the box,
No,
or
that
you
just
get
goes
that on the
your record. I got a
website?
little smiley, bingo, happy. I was there.
On the website. Oh.
We got 36 caches in one day, and that's the most I've ever got. But people at Geo Woodstock are going to be trying for a lot more than that.
Last year, it took us about 200 miles drive. If somebody gets hurt, he will be left behind.
What happened during the Clinton administration is they decided to remove selective availability. And selective availability was basically civilian-grade GPS receivers had a certain amount of accuracy, around 300 feet. In May of 2000, they basically just, I don't know what it was, but I always call it the great switch that removed selective availability was turned on. And instantly, all the GPS units in the world had 20-foot accuracy over 300-foot accuracy, so an instant upgrade.
Price of GPSs went down to, I think I got mine for $50 with a $30 coupon. So at that point I said, oh, I can afford this now.
Dave Ulmer was the guy who had the first idea of hiding something, publishing the GPS coordinates, and letting people find it.
We didn't even know what it was. We would see groups of people just wandering around, chasing their GPS. You know, they would have walked over a 20-foot cliff and fallen off, and as long as they were following their GPS, they didn't care.
Originally it was called the GPS stash hunt. That worked for a little while, but people started to get concerned with the negative connotations of the word stash.
And I have with me the original can of beans, which is the last remaining item from the first cache, which was placed by Dave Ulmer just outside of Portland, Oregon. I happened to find the original can of beans when I was at the site in September of 2003, monumenting the original stash tribute plaque. And Dave Ulmer was next to me and verified the find. And that can of beans and I have logged over 28,000 miles together going to different events. And it's here at Geo Woodstock 4 for everyone to enjoy.
It's just such an interesting blend, and it brings so many people who would never have wouldn't even talk to each other if you were standing in line at the movies.
Tennessee Jet and I own a landscape company in Knoxville, Tennessee.
I'm a computer engineer. Where could I be in?
In the military, in the Army.
I build Subarus. I make oil, gas, and petrochemicals.
I'm a general contractor. I'm a geologist.
Canadian Armed Forces Reserve member in Canada.
It runs the gamut, the community.
It's a very broad slice of humanity, of people who are involved in geocaching. And they all tend to be very outgoing, very generous, just creative, fun people.
I'm Kelly White from Southeast Texas, and we all put these together under the guidance of a guy named Snuggins. And this is seed caches. It's called 1 Degree of Separation. And we're going to take and put these caches and start seeding caches all over the world. We're going to give everybody one to take back to wherever they're from, whatever state, city, country.
Cachers around the world, if they found each of these caches, will be related to someone else by 1 degree of separation.
These 13,000 caches are to be hidden by all of you, okay? You'll take the seed pods and hide them wherever you go. People will come and find them where you've hidden them and take the seed caches out and hide them. It took about 500 hours and about $500 to put this all together with logistics and everything.
It's surprising to me to see these organizations just growing up from nothing around an activity which can be pretty solitary.
I do it all by myself most of the time.
Do you? Why?
Yeah, just to get away from everybody. Get out in the woods, go for a walk. Yeah, I'd rather cache by myself.
So the social aspect of it has been, I think, kind of an inadvertent thing that grew out of geocaching.
Geocaching primarily is a community-driven sport. It doesn't appear that way when you first get started. It's just about you, your GPS, and finding that cache in the woods. But without that person who goes out and places the cache, there'll be nothing for anyone else to find.
I like it a lot because I can trade toys that I don't like.
We have 4-year-old cachers that go out with their mom and dads, kids being pushed around in strollers, all the way to 84-year-old Shirley O'Connell, who geocaches every single week, if not every day.
It's a nice way to bring families together. That's one thing I've noticed is some families become closer.
I've heard stories of fathers with teenage sons who have absolutely nothing in common. But now geocaching comes into their lives and they actually have something that they can both enjoy doing.
So the social aspect is great. Now we're trading geocoins, and so that's another new way of meeting people.
These were started to be made by geocaching after mountain bike sort of started the whole geocoin craze.
The original geocoin idea was a traveling signature item. It would be a metal coin that is placed in caches, and people can log them out of the cache and into another one using the tracking number on the coin.
But most of the time people find them and they're like, wow, this is really cool, and they just hold on to them. So it's pretty rare for a coin to actually travel more than 2 or 3 caches.
The basics behind a geocoin are you place them in caches, you find them in caches, or you trade them from person to person. And then there's a whole other side of geocoins now that doesn't involve caches at all. It's the trading and collecting aspect. Coins are passed from people to people without ever seeing the inside of an ammo can.
This one's called Stumpy, and it's a fairly typical cache container. Daisy's good at finding caches. And inside a cache you'll find a logbook. And usually the first page will say something about the owner or the cache name. And then on the next page you'll find FTF, which is first to find. So the first person to find the cache signs in and goes woohoo, and it doesn't mean anything, but first to find is fun, and a lot of people keep track of how many they have. And a travel bug. Well, I'm going to take that travel bug home and drop it in another cache. I don't know what its mission is, but I can look it up on the internet. And what happens is you go to groundspeak.com and you buy the dog tag, and then you attach whatever you want to it, log it on geocaching.com, give it a mission, and it passes around from cache to cache. So I have a couple of mine that are now in Europe, one's in Sweden. They just end up going all over the world. It's really amazing seeing what happens to them.
In my very first cache that I placed a traveling item. It was actually a frog, which ironically is now the symbol for groundspeak, and I called it the stash hopper. As far as I can tell, that's the first traveling item or hitchhiker that ever was in the game.
There's a lot of different types of geocachers out there. There are some that really enjoy doing the micro caches. And there's this community of people who love to go out and find the tiniest caches in the biggest places.
In pretty much every major city in America, there's at least a dozen or 2 of those caches that people walk by every day and have no idea that they're even there.
You're trying to find a film canister hidden under a brick in the middle of a shopping mall or something like that.
You can just glue a magnet to one of these things and stick it either under a park bench or a facade of a building.
And then some are, way out in the country, and so you're in the middle of absolutely nowhere with nobody around. And
we are going on a cache run. It's a less common form of caching, but when you have an event like this, it's a lot of fun for everyone to go together. So today we're going out to a lake and a floodplain south of Fort Worth, and there's about a dozen caches there that we're going to hit along a 5-mile loop.
Don't shoot me, I'm only a geocacher. That's the first cache that we're going to go to.
So we'll probably just sort of tromp along as a big pack. One person will find it and then everyone can sign the log. So here we are about 100 feet that way, so should be somewhere in that group of trees.
We'll always take a smiley. We'll just put it back in.
Just because there's a cache that's placed 100 feet off trail and all the signs state that you must stay on trail, that's a cache that you shouldn't visit.
There's two ways we can get to it. We can cut across like the prairie, or we can follow the road down and back up, and it takes a little longer to follow the road.
Geocachers, time after time, take the same trail to the geocache, and it ends up tamping down the vegetation, and it could potentially kill the vegetation.
We can have a trail be created within a matter of weeks.
A responsible geocacher will move their geocache from time to time, update the coordinates on the website so that geocachers are entering the location from a different area.
Being out there and doing trail work, I've seen recovery of trails, and leave no trace people sometimes spin it a little too far, like 20 years before a trail can be recovered. And it can actually happen in 2 or 3.
We've found once our visitors leave the trail and enter into maybe an area where there's water or a spring, the wildlife will vacate that area.
Then at the site itself, it becomes a magnet area where people might have lunch, or they rest there, or they congregate there as they're looking over the cache and filling out the log. So these sites can grow in barren soil and resource impacts as more and more people visit them and congregate at the sites.
Some of these park officials, even county parks and city parks, it's almost like they have a really great job and a perfect little fiefdom if it weren't for all these damn public people that want to come tromp around in there.
Right, yes, that's true.
You show up, oh, you're going to be using the park today? Well,
And I've yet to see a cacher that's destructive of the land at all.
The potential resource damages that can be left from a geocaching site on public lands seem to be benign at first, that it's just a small container left in the backcountry.
It's an environmental issue. They think we're leaving trash behind, But in a sense, it's not trash. I know where it is. Trash you throw over your shoulder. That's litter. It's gone. You don't know where it is. But I purposely put this in a spot well hidden. You can't see them.
Those individuals must contact us and fill out a special activity permit.
If you put a cache far enough from a road where it's unobstructed, well hidden, and they won't find them.
We can do a site anywhere we want, it's freedom of speech. Well, I appreciate that, but there are areas where it's illegal.
In the last consequence, we would all have to sit in our homes and watch TV, and then no harm to the environment could be done. So I think it's always kind of compromise thing.
In wilderness, geocaching is discouraged, and there's several reasons. Most importantly, wilderness areas are set aside for their natural conditions, to be visited, enjoyed, but to have nothing left behind.
And I can totally understand that. That's what it is. It's a wilderness area, untrammeled. As Leopold said, take only pictures, leave only footprints.
Virtual caching is where you actually would have coordinates that lead you to a natural feature, such as a rock outcropping or a particular tree or some site in the backcountry that you can identify for people to go to. Therefore, you wouldn't have a container or something left behind.
Oh, I can't imagine geocachers are doing any damage at all to forests.
They don't know as much about the lands as we do, but you can go put a cache wherever you would like. According to the geocacher sometimes. You may put it under a bald eagle nest that's the only active bald eagle nest in all Larimer County. Well, you might not know anything of that nest and put a cache right under it. Didn't know any better, I wouldn't expect you to. But if you come to us, I'm going to say there's a bald eagle nest here. The Division of Wildlife recommends we're not within a half-mile radius of that eagle's nest.
We have to be conscious of what the National Park Service and people like that want us to do.
The National Park Service has decided that they do not wish to have geocaches placed on their lands.
They want to define to the letter how you're supposed to recreate.
We'll work within your guidelines. You approve them. You give us permits.
I'm not filling out any permit.
Just let us try it and see if it'll work. They still won't do it.
And the national parks are always carping about how they're underfunded and they don't have any money. And this is a
And
perfect revenue stream for them to say,
$5,
$10 a permit for a year, and it would bring more traffic into the parks.
They have a resource to protect, and they feel that they're protecting it in the best way that they know how.
If I wanted to get permission, like from the landowner, to place a cache, you literally go do a river cleanup and put a cache in.
Cache in, trash out. It's both a philosophy in general that every time you go out looking for a cache, it's a good idea to pick up some trash and take it out with you.
I think it's a wonderful idea, but then in a way I don't like it because Do fishermen have to do a project to fish? Do hunters have to do a project to fish? No. So we're geocachers are kind of on the outside, so-called polluting the world.
If you're going fishing, you need to know if you're allowed to fish in that lake or not.
In some cases, we do have strict guidelines. There's certain things that we don't want on the website, and that's caches under bridges, caches in schoolyards, or on the steps of a Capitol building.
Or you don't want to put it halfway down a cliff that people are going to have to rappel to it unless you put very explicit warnings on the page saying, hey, this is a really dangerous cache, cache at your own risk.
Certain objects not be placed in caches, food items, things that might be dangerous to children.
We don't put them in railroad tracks or places where people could get hurt, and they are not buried, period.
Because sometimes people who don't know anything about geocaching get a little freaked when they see you trying to find stuff in the woods or they find an ammo box or whatever.
Well, I will tell you, just post 9/11, we had a cache that was placed in a metal box under a bridge on a state highway. Instantly, everything went into motion.
There's a lot of suspicion, and the idea of creating caches in the woods and containers that aren't well marked can cause quite a stir.
One time when I was in DC, the way the DC roads go, there are a lot of one-ways, so you tend to circle a lot. And I ended up circling the White House about 4 times in a minivan with temporary tags, and then parked it near there and walked behind the White House to find a couple of virtual caches there. And the Secret Service were interested in what I was doing.
He's known for getting stopped by the police at caches.
Well, it was pretty interesting because the first Secret Service agent came up on a bicycle in a uniform, and he was very friendly, and he asked what I was doing, and I showed him about geocaching, and he thought it was very cool, and he was very friendly. And then another guy showed up on a bike, and he too was interested, and just thought this was a very fun activity, and we were just basically small talking about it. And then 2 black Suburbans rolled up, and 2 plainclothes gentlemen came out, and all the smiles were gone. And that was the point at which I realized that they had kept me there until the big guns rolled in.
One place he was doing a cache that an elementary school class had put out. So it was actually on school grounds. So here this man in his 50s is hanging around at this elementary school in the woods in the middle of the day. The cops find him there, and it was it was pretty bad. I mean, they ended up running him off. I mean, they didn't arrest him or anything, but they didn't want him around there, which is a little understandable.
I've never really gotten grilled or thrown on the hood and handcuffed or anything. They'll just basically come up and they're like, what are you doing?
Sometimes they'll roll their eyes. Oh, another one.
Because usually it's fairly suspicious type behavior. You're either driving really slow or you're sort of walking around peeking in the bushes or something.
We have a cacher up in Ottawa. He goes by the nickname Zardimus. He prefers to cache at night, carries a 10-foot bullwhip, a 2 million candle power flashlight, and just to add the icing on the cake, he wears the full Batman bat cowl down to here with the symbol, the cape. And yes, he has been approached by the police on numerous occasions. He's gone through ride checks with it sitting on the seat next to him. And they know him. Oh, it's okay.
There's 2 personas. There's your real name, and then there's your geocaching name.
Grease pot.
The Alabama Rambler.
The Sandman.
Paint Fiction.
Bin rat. In the Canadian Armed Forces, we have supply techs are bin rats. But I got mine because the truck I drive is a bin truck, and I would literally go out on the weekends and live in it all weekend long. And then one weekend I came out of the woods, and one of the guys says, hey look, bin rat finally came out of his hole. So that's how I got my nickname. It's great.
Windswept Plains is going to be his next cache of 1,000. It's going to be 1,000.
Wow, are you excited?
You bet. Leaping Lee's going to do some love leaping.
Welcome to the Millennium Club.
This is one of those phenomenons where there's the website, and most websites, the idea is that you're supposed to go on surf and interact with the website. In this case, the whole idea is go to the website, find a listing, and then get out of your house and go outdoors.
Actually, geocaching is a fantastic way to teach people to explore the backcountry. It's a great way to teach young kids how to use a map and how to use the new technology of like a GPS unit.
If you have any interest in gadgets or computers or the outdoors or hiking, I think you should give it a try because I think you'll find it very interesting.
I look at it like a sport. There's Mickey Mantle, there's Pete Rose, and there's Dennis Rodman. There's the good, there's the bad, and there's the ugly.
Mesa, Arizona. It was out on a lake, Saguaro Lake, and it was on a rock outcropping in the middle of the lake, and the only way to get to it was by boat. And after like 8 attempts of trying to find it, we finally found it. Then we realized we didn't have a pen or a pencil to write on, so I went back to the boat and got a fishing knife out and basically cut my arm open and wrote what I could in it with as much as the blood I can get out of my arm and stuff.